Good day and Melkonkin for my people over in Ethiopia. Welcome to Brothers Crossing. I am Roro here with Cub and Nan. Before we get started, want to make sure that everybody has a chance to like this program. So hit the button like, and in the bottom, hit the subscribe button. We will appreciate more listeners, more subscribers, so we can do more. How you brothers doing today?
Awesome.
Doing good.
Just good over there, but I'm awesome.
I'm going to tell you, I'm angry. And so we're going to talk about it today.
Oh,
We're going to talk about angry American voters, the rise of angry voters, and why we're so mad. And if anyone's listening. So I'm going to say I'm a little upset today. As Nando and, audience knows that my mom is in the facility memory care for dementia. And so my dad stays in the same facility. So I get an email today. Oh, we're going to raise his rent 7%. You're going to say, okay, that's not much. But they raised it last year 7%. So on $4,200, that's an extra $600 of rent for a fixed income person.
Did they give you the reason for the increase?
No, it's greedy. So that's what I'm saying. So I'm mad, and that's it's going to lead right into what we're talking about today. So hold on to your shorts because I'm ready. I'm fired up a little bit. So again, we're starting the show. We're talking about the rise of angry voters, rise of angry Americans, and why we're so mad. And then, if anything, who's listening? And so I'll give you guys the opportunity to have an opening statement. Why do you guys think Americans are so mad, Kev?
I think the majority of people are kind of pissed off about and it's been going on for a little while, and I've been catching a lot in my feed this week, and last week is on shrinkflation. And what do I mean by that? Companies, the products that you buy every day, potato chips, cookie bags, all sorts of daily products that we consume are now, you're getting less for the same money, if not more. Cereals, bags of chips, bars of soap, you name it, start paying attention to it. Even soft soaps that used to be, with cocoa butter and now having oils put in it and smaller packaging, and they're still charging you more. That's bullshit. And yet all these publicly traded companies, they're just laughing all the way to the bank, and we keep buying their stuff. Everybody needs to stop buying their crap.
So your anger is directed towards an economic argument. You think the economic issues.
Well, because the economy affects everybody, right? All of us. No one's immune to it. But just today,
Today, woke up, beautiful day because I'm 6 feet above ground. Walk around the house, get some tea, ready to relax. The news happened to be on. And you got this young lady, probably 65 years old, who wants to give back to the community. And how she gives back to the community? She works at a food bank. She is literally almost on the verge of tears because they're running out of food. Because people are coming to them with receipts saying, I had $300 and I went to the grocery store and I can only get 3 bags of food. That's all I could get. Could I get some food to help me offset the little stuff that I have? And she's like, we're coming with so many families that we're running out of food because so many Americans, and then you brought up political. She said, didn't the government say our groceries should be going down, or if it went up a little bit, it wouldn't affect families? Look at all the families at this food bank. Now multiply that one food bank by all of the food banks in the country. Smaller communities like a Kansas, like Oklahoma or Wisconsin, smaller communities, and how it's being affected. They're angry at our government.
Yeah.
They should be.
Yeah. And I was looking, doing some research. That so the Gallup, they have this World Happiness Report, and they have the United States as the 24th ranked happiest country in the world. That's down for us. It's at an all-time low. And that all-time high is in 2012 when we were 11th in the world on this happiness meter that they have. Places like Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, Netherlands are all at the top. And then we're sliding down.
But what's unique to those countries? What do they all have in common?
I don't know. Share with us.
Nationalized healthcare.
Well, that's
Ouch.
and that's something. But when I talk about what got me started when I was thinking about what makes people angry? Why are people so angry? And I always go back to the basics. And I'm telling you, the one thing I've said it, if you've ever had a conversation with me, is all the labeling that we do. First, we divide ourselves up into many pieces. You're black, you're white, you're short, you think liberal, you think conservative, all of these things. And I know there are defense mechanisms and the way people try to get themselves society identity and so on, but I think it's the worst way. It's the quickest way for us to start hating each other, pointing the finger at each other, never having a common ground, because everybody wants to be better than everybody else. So you have that, and then you add on the fact that now we live in a society where the average person is a little bit powerless. We have to rely on the government, and if they're not doing their job, who's the first person that you're going to turn to are the people that you already labeled over here, who you think you're better than, that you're not like them. And so those are the two things. I'm like, you join those together, you're going to naturally have angry people. And I think that's what's happened in our society, particularly in America, because we can start with, the political polarization, like the two parties. Why can't they talk to each other? Like, you literally cannot talk to people
They
anymore.
don't want you to talk to each other. They keep you divided for a reason. Okay. They want it because it feeds them. Why? I mean, I'll ask you both, and then other people they can comment. Do you think the country is successful?
I think it's fairly successful, yes.
Either party, doesn't matter. Some
Right.
either Democrat or Republican. Do you think the country is successful and they're doing a good job?
I do, for the most part.
Okay, Nando.
Yes, as actors, they're doing a great job.
Okay, how could anyone think that these guys are doing a great job, and it doesn't matter what party is in power, when we're nearly $38 trillion fucking dollars in debt? In the last 25 years, that's what you've amassed. How could either one of them be doing a great job for us? They're giving us the bill, right?
Wouldn't you if you owned a
Each
business?
one, and each one of you, everyone else is going to say, yeah, I'm glad my guy's in because it's my values that are being represented. That's on the surface. That's what they're blowing smoke up your ass for. In the meantime, they're screwing everybody. They're getting richer and we're getting the bill. And by 2030, I'm going to say we're going to be 50 trillion in debt. And who's going to suffer? Folks that are on the government stipend, so to speak, but people that are retiring, your retirement age is going to push to 72 and that kind of crap.
Yeah, I think.
So I would be pissed off about that. Everyone should be pissed off about that.
Well, I don't know what you say, but it goes back to, we are looking at the start of this discussion. Why do we have to pick labels? Because of that upper echelon wants us to pick labels so that we're infighting with each other and not paying attention to what they were doing. As you're saying, we're 36 trillion. They're like, I don't give a fudge if we're 36 trillion. How many more millions can I make, or trillions or billions can I make off of these inbreds, and we're going to keep them fighting? Why do you think I used the word actors before? They get into Congress, they get into House, they're worth probably $500,000, $750 million. After 10 years, they're worth probably 32 million, 42. How is that if their salaries are between 100 and 175,000? So the reason is they're actors. They are totally actors, playing their roles. I got elected on this label. That's how I have to be. I got elected on this side, has to be, because we're going to keep messing with these people. So they keep fighting and they don't notice us getting rich. That's why I say it's motherfucking crazy.
They have access to the information that we don't.
Correct.
Because they are allowed to trade stocks and they have access to that information when it finally breaks the news that something's going to happen or the U.S. is going to develop this or that. They knew that months ago and they bought that stock in early. Yeah. That's part of the problem. I mean, part of this conversation is going to be about the angry voter and stuff, but it all kind of comes together and gets weaved together. But,
But I think it's easier, and again, I'm glad you recognize the labeling part is that it's easier when you divide people up in groups. And now that group's going to say my values is this. Now, the deeper that people get rooted in their values, the easier it is for you to feed them this information because you're trying to support. I got to do everything to support this value. So you know what? That guy said you're this, that, and the other, and they may not ever said that to you, but it feeds into your value. I don't want people to talk about, you know, how I worship the Lord. He's over there saying they're trying to take it out of your schools. They're trying to, and they keep just feeding all this information that I feel like it's easier. You break them up, feed the values. You can feed them all the misinformation you want to.
They're just pumping the hot buttons. Everybody's got a hot button. For the religious folks, they've got a hot button. The folks that aren't religious, they have theirs, and everyone else in between. But the point is, they're keeping us fighting against each other so we don't unite to fight against them. Because
Facts.
once everybody comes together and fights against them, term limits, no trading stocks of people in, you come in, you do your civic duty, you get the hell out and let somebody else take their turn. That's the problem.
So if we're doing all this infighting, what are we fighting for? Are we fighting for dollars? Are we fighting for to be in a social identity higher than somebody else? Or is it purely economic inequality that we're trying to fight and make sure that we have our particular place on the ladder?
Well, I think at this moment, it's purely economic. That leads, everyone's pocketbooks is before anything else. You could have your values about this or that, but if you don't have $1 in your pocket to go and buy some food, it really doesn't matter. Right. So,
Yeah. Nando, you're going to jump in on that one.
Well, when you were saying it goes, and I don't want us to go in a roundabout way again. I think we're all saying the same thing. It's the financial aspect. I don't know what the percentage breakdown of us Americans who wake up in the morning, happy if we have kids, kiss our kids, make sure they get to school, make our lunch, make our coffee, get ready to go to work. We go to work, we bust our ass hard as hell. We get yelled at sometimes. Sometimes we may get an applause. Then we're done. We come home. That's our day. We're happy about that. But the upper echelon, which I don't know what that percentage is looking at us. This part of the country didn't make my $1 billion. How do I affect them? Let me drop this nugget in. Let's see what happens when a cop shoots somebody, or when somebody shoots a cop, or when somebody does this. Let's get the media dialed into that so I can figure out how I can make that trillion. I don't know what that different percentage is, but it goes back to it's not us. We're not thinking the financial aspect of how much more we can fill our pockets. What we are thinking is, how can I help somebody? I see somebody on the side of the road that looks like they need some help. Somebody got into a car accident. Let me dial 911. That's what we're thinking about. We're not thinking of how many more trillions we can have, because Denzel Washington said one thing, flip me out. He goes, to all you rich billionaires always trying to shit on the regular people and make money, do you not remember that a U-Haul is never attached to a hearse?
Yeah.
You're not taking it with you. You're not taking it with you. So why continue to build when you're not spending all of it just to leave it to your kids who's going to fuck it over after 3 or 4 generations? There is no U-Haul or hearse.
That's the point. It's generational wealth. They want to keep the wheel turning for their kids and their kids' kids, and it just keeps going. The Rockefellers and the Kennedys and all, you can go on and on. But the problem is we keep electing these jackasses. Everyone's electing these people in thinking that they have our interest in mind. They'll tell you that. And I think in reality, there's a small percentage of people that get elected to Congress that have the right intentions, and they find out very quickly, here's what you're going to vote like. Because if you don't, especially if you're in the House, in 2 years, we're going to be throwing all our money to this other guy. So you need to kind of, vote the way we want you to vote. And that's it. You could be in front of the microphone on the press and tell them how you're disappointed in this. But when it comes down to vote, you're going to push the button that we want you to.
So you're both of you guys seem to be arguing that it's really not about governing. It's about lining the pockets of who has least perceived positions of power, but it's not really about governing. It's not coming together for the best of the country or all
No,
this. And
they
so
may
they,
tell you that. If it was the best for the country, how could we be nearly $38 trillion in debt? How
true.
was that? How was that good for the country? How have either one of these
I
guys
think
done
they
any
could
good?
play a destructive role, though. I mean, if we're going to acknowledge that it is about the money, but it's a destructive role to the fabric of our country. If you keep putting people in these boxes, tell them that they don't think like you, they don't think like us. We create these stereotypes. These stereotypes become tradition, and we're just passing it on and on and on. And literally looking at the government and how effective it is. I think the last Congress or the one before had the lowest amount of bills passed. Like, what are we paying them for then? Right? Like they're just I think we're paying they're getting paid to put people in boxes
But
and then take the money.
there's not enough of people having this conversation from both sides of the aisle, Republicans, Democrats, independents alike, that are coming together and saying, okay, you know, on every state ballot, term limits are going to be implemented. I mean, look at here in Colorado.
Yeah.
The current governor, he's out after this one. There's term limits. Why can't that be implemented on the national elections? We have it for the president. Why isn't it all the way through all levels of government? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, let's flip the record. Let's flip this conversation. You, Cub, you're going in the House for Colorado. Roro, you're going in for Wisconsin into the Senate. Explain to us and the viewers, what would you guys do different if I use Cub's analogy? You're going to follow 75% of the bills that we pass through. You can go to the microphone, tell them how upset you are. If not, you're not going to be here. So explain to me and the viewers how you guys would do something different than what these individuals that were voted in.
Because I think I'd say I would not look at it as a career. And I think that's kind of where you were heading. Is like if there's term limits, I'm doing my civic or duty
Exactly.
or whatever. I got 8 years. I'm going to do this. You're going to make all the connections you want in the world to get in the private sector and make all the money you want to. But if you start making it a career, you make it a career, you're just worried about keeping your job. You're not really worrying about working for the people. So that's where I would be more
Exactly.
like, hey, I got 4 years to do this. I got to talk to everybody that can
Could
pull some levers. If they can't, I'll be out in 4 or I'll be out in 8 or however whatever my term is, and that's it. But at
could
least
you
you're trying to
imagine how many
move the
things would
ball
get done?
somewhere. Yeah.
Just what you're talking about. Could you imagine how much would get done when you had a time limit? Yeah, I'm up to this time and then I'm out. How much constructive things would get done?
Yeah. Thanks for listening to part 1 of our discussion on why America is so angry. Turn into part 2 as we further discuss why America is so angry. But in the meantime, look left, look right, Brothers Crossing. Good night.